Welcome to the Boostly podcast. This is a podcast that gives hosts the tools, the tactics, the tips, and most importantly, the confidence so you can go out there and get yourselves more direct bookings. We do a series where we go behind the host, and that's exactly what we're doing today. We've got a guest who has got a short-term rental business, and particularly today, this guest has not only started his business, scaled his business, but he's now he's just sold his business and going through that at the moment. So this is a really good chance for you as a host to learn from somebody who has done this, and you can pick up tips, tricks, and all of the good stuff from this podcast. So let me introduce, we've got a special guest. We've got Josh Guest on the line with us. He is from Guest Homes, and let's dive into his business. Welcome along, Josh.
Good morning, Liam. Yeah, looking forward to it.
So Josh, for those, I know you've been on this podcast once before, but that was a little while ago now. So can you reintroduce your business? Give us the elevator pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. So so it started Guest Homes in 2018. Actually started it as a rent to SA business, and sort of got into it a bit out of nowhere actually, because I bought an existing rent to service accommodation business, which was in Brighton, 4 hours away from where I live, which was definitely lots of learning curves around that side of things, which we can dive into a bit later on. And then lots of people then started asking me about managing their properties, and where I live locally in Worcester, I thought there's a good market for it here because there's lots of things going on, and they'd open up a new Premier Inn by the cricket club. So I thought, actually, there's a good market here. Let's give it a go. Opened a couple of units up. They were flying off, and then it just started. The traction just started going, and more and more people keep asking me to manage their properties, and scaled up from there.
And what do you want people to get out of this podcast? Obviously, you've had a lot of experience. What would you like somebody to take away from this podcast?
Yeah, so to be honest, just hopefully they can pick up lots of little different tips and advice depending on what stage they're at in the business. So we've grown to 130 units before selling the business. So whether you're just getting started and take some bits away from just about getting started, or wanting to take advice on how to scale it and exit the business and follow in my.
You mentioned your one of the first lessons there was you literally just bought an existing business. So what did you learn in the very early days? What did you feel that that you learned in the early days, and what do you wish you'd have learned faster in those early days?
Well, I got into the industry knowing completely, literally nothing about it. I literally just, some guy basically said he's got these free rent to SA properties. I didn't even know the terminology of that. And he literally, he showed me his P&L over the last 2 years. And I was like, well, basically what I'm going to pay him for it, I can get my money back in 9 months. How hard can it be? I was like, I've got money just sat there at the moment in stocks and shares, getting like 10% a year. I was like, well, I can get my money back in 9 months and then make that back again the following year. So like, it's just a no-brainer. So, but the biggest lesson that I probably learned from that was, being 4 hours away, then taking on those properties, then trying to sort of the logistics out with things, cleaners, maintenance issues, really knew about, and then any sort of questions from guests. I didn't obviously really know these properties that well, because obviously just taking it over from someone else, I didn't really know the properties super well. So I had to spend quite a lot of time down in Brighton, which is then 4 hours traveling, either staying down there, sorting things out, and more particularly in Brighton, trying to sort out maintenance or cleaners is quite chaos, because it's obviously a busy city, and there's not there's nowhere for anyone to park. So all the tradespeople don't want to do anything for less than probably £100 at a time. So to just change your light bulb is hard to get sorted. So yeah, there was lots of learning curves, but I definitely recommend, if anyone's looking to either invest in property or rent to SA, or even management, just to start off with, try and do it within an hour of where you are, so you can sort of learn the sort of nuts and bolts of things, until you can build up a systemization to scale it.
That's really good. And is there anything that you wish you'd have learned faster from way back then?
Um, Not necessarily faster. I think you've got to learn everything as you go on. But probably just learning more systemization and outsourcing some things. But I think in a way that's part of the journey. And also, if you do that too early on, then you probably end up overspending on systemization or end up overspending on staff. So it's in my view, it's actually good to learn.
You're certainly younger than me, but what age were you when you started this business?
Yeah, so I was 20 years old when I started.
Amazing, amazing, and a very brave thing to do, but also a very savvy thing to do because, like you say, you looked at the P&L and just went, "Hey, I can make money here." So, talk us through how you went from those first few units. What was kind of like the next stage? Did it just happen gradually? I mean, you mentioned that you've sold the business at 130 units, and you mentioned I think it was four rent-to-rent units you started with. So,
Yeah.
what happened in the middle?
Yeah, so like I say, kind of came back to Worcester, and I had like a bit of a brainstorm moment. Said like, actually, now we need to actually scale this business. Like, this is a great opportunity here. So it's kind of like starting from scratch though again, because technically these first three units I never found. So I never had to go and speak to agents, landlords, etc. Because obviously I just bought an existing business. Um, so it's fortunate in that side, but then I was basically starting from scratch. So I needed to go and network, speaking to agents, speaking to some director landlords, etc. Try and find some more rent service accommodations, and that's what I was looking down initially, because that's what I was going to initially scale up. So I started to look around for options to try and do that, but that was actually quite hard, and it did take me 3 to 6 months of hard graft of doing lots of viewings with either letting agents or trying to do direct to vendor viewings as well. And I kept getting lots of no's, and I thought it would have been easier to start off with, because I technically had a track record of these three units, even so obviously they didn't know, obviously, but obviously because I'm in a complete different area, basically everyone's treating me as a new start business still. So I was like, this is actually harder than I thought. But yeah, did lots and lots of viewings, and then eventually I got a yes, and then I got another yes, and then they got another yes, and then suddenly within like a 2 or 3 month period, just then the traction just really hit, and it just like just drove off. And then some of the people were like, actually, because some of the direct vendor clients, they were like, actually, I want a piece of that, but I don't want to manage it. So could you just manage it for me? Um, and then I was sort of just connecting with other investors in the area, and they were like, "Oh, I know my friend as well. He's got a property, or she's got a property," and passed me their details. And then it just sort of just snowball effect, just flowing off from there.
How do we get in touch with you, Josh? If somebody is listening to this, going, you know what, Josh sounds like he's got a lot of experience. I want to reach out to him. Is there a way to do so, or is there a way to check out Guesty Homes and Host and Say?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, well, if you want to get Guest Homes website still up, so just go on to www.guesthomes.co.uk. You want to reach out to myself personally, then just drop me a message on Instagram or Facebook. So on Facebook, it's just Josh Guest. Instagram's _Josh_Guest_. So pretty easy to find me on there, or LinkedIn or anything. Any questions about scaling, starting, or exiting, yeah, just reach out to me and drop me a message.
That's cool. And to finish, what's the plan for the future?
Um, Never know where it will take me, but yeah, there's lots of stuff going on. For a complete different podcast, we also have our own linen business as well. So we have a linen hire business, which is called Guest Linen. So we at the moment we're facilitating within an hour to an hour and a half of Worcestershire. So that's all the way up to sort of Birmingham, the whole of the Cotswolds, down towards Bristol, Bath area. So we're going to be scaling that up, and that's obviously be a completely different podcast on its own. And yeah, I'm going to take obviously a long think about it over the next sort of 12 months. I'm going to continue with obviously working with Host and Stay as well, continue growing out their portfolio of properties, So I'm really looking forward to that, and then see where my journey takes me.
Yeah, well, you've certainly earned some time to ponder that question. And if anyone's listening and you need linen hire in those areas, obviously you know who to contact as well. So thank you so much, Josh, for coming on to the Boostly podcast. If you're listening to this and you've got even one piece of value from it, and maybe another host, a friend, share this podcast with them. If you want a podcast with them, if you want to continue the chat on a social media channel, you can come to our free Facebook page. Just go onto Facebook and search the Hospitality Community. It's a free community where you can come and join, and we can talk about anything you've heard on this podcast, or we can talk about direct bookings. We can talk about whatever you like, really, but we'll see.
Having a blast, gonna get it on the Boostly podcast. Boostly like Bruce Lee, cause it's so hard and the T is loose leaf. Making up those rhymes, don't write it, just do it loosely.